Well, of course, after the successful bombing run of our amazing pilots in their B-2 bombers from Missouri, flying 36 hours round trip with those bunker busters stealthily, no one saw it coming, no one saw it happening. Unbelievable success story. They're going to make a movie out of this. It's that cool. After that, of course, the mainstream legacy corporate media in the United States had to stand firm, draw a line in the sand, and face their enemy head on. We can't let the Trump administration get away with this. People feel good about it, and they successfully achieved something that every president since Jimmy Carter's been attempting to do: neutralize the terrorist state, the theocracy that is the Islamic Republic of Iran. Donald Trump did that? Oh, not on my watch, says Margaret Brennan at Face the Nation. Folks, she did it again. She got lined up this time with, I think, her favorite adversary, Marco Rubio. And by favorite, I mean Secretary of State Marco Rubio cannot wait to sit in that chair and face off with Margaret Brennan, because he knows that his stock is going to go way up with the American people because she's so bad. And he brought his A game. Take a look.
So far, it does not appear that Iran has yet retaliated against the United States. What intelligence do you have at this point about their capabilities to respond, the intent of their proxies? Is there any kind of command and control structure left to activate them?
Yeah, well, we'll see what Iran decides to do. I think they should choose the route of peace. We've done everything. We have bent over backwards, okay, to create a deal with these people. Steve Witkoff has traveled the world extensively, met with them, or not even met with them, met through the Omanis with them and discussed back and forth. We even put an offer to them that they wanted elements of it in writing, and we offered it to them. Very generous offer, by the way. We've done it, and we're prepared right now. If they call right now and say, we want to meet, let's talk about this, we're prepared to do that. The president's made that clear from the very beginning. His preference is to deal with this issue diplomatically. But he also told them we had 60 days to make progress or something else was going to happen. And I think they thought they were dealing with a different kind of leader, like the kinds of leaders they've been playing games with for the last 30 or 40 years. And they found out that's not the case. So this mission was a very precise mission. It had 3 objectives, 3 nuclear sites. It was not an attack on Iran. It was not an attack on the Iranian people. This wasn't a regime change move. This was designed to degrade and or destroy 3 nuclear sites related to their nuclear weaponization ambitions, and that was delivered on yesterday. What happens next will now depend on what Iran chooses to do next. If they choose the path of diplomacy, we're ready. We can do a deal that's good for them, the Iranian people, and good for the world. Yeah. If they choose another route, then there'll be consequences for that.
First of all, again, great, sober, deliberate, well-spoken Marco Rubio, your Secretary of State and your National Security Advisor, amongst other jobs that he's got right now. No notes, no hemming and hawing, no, looking at the index card, no talking points, really. I mean, this is just a man having a conversation who has command of the issues and feels confident with his administration, the Trump administration's moves this year. And you heard Margaret Brennan. First of all, the question, tell me about the intelligence you have about their capabilities. I'm not going to tell you. Why do these teleprompter readers think that state secrets are going to get divulged in an interview? Just moronic waste of our time by asking that question. It's not informing the American people, whatever. But you heard her trying to get in there. Okay, stop sounding competent. Stop sounding forceful and on top of the issue. Let me in. Let me hammer you. So she tries to hammer.
Let me follow up on a phrase you just word: weaponization ambitions. Are you saying there that the United States did not see intelligence that the Supreme Leader had ordered weaponization?
That's irrelevant. I see that question being asked in the media. That's an irrelevant question.
No,
they have
that is the key point in U.S. intelligence assessment. You know that.
No, it's not.
Yes, it was.
No, it's not.
The political decision had not been
I know that better than you know that, and I know that that's not the case.
But I'm asking you whether the order was given.
And the people who say that, it doesn't matter if the order was given. They have everything they need to build nuclear weapons. Why would you bury things in a mountain 300 feet under the ground?
Right.
Why would you bury why do they have 60% enriched uranium? You don't need 60% enriched uranium. The only countries in the world that have uranium at 60% are countries that have nuclear weapons, because they can quickly make it 90. They have all the elements. They have. Why do they have a space program? Is Iran going to go to the moon? No, they're trying to build an ICBM.
No, but that's a question. That's a question of intent. And in the intelligence assessment that it was that Iran wanted to be a threshold
How do you
state
know
and
what the
use this
intelligence assessment
leverage.
says?
I'm talking about
what
the
the
public
intelligence assessment
March
says?
assessment. And that's why I was asking you if you know something more from
But
March.
that's also
if
an
order
inaccurate
was given.
representation of it. That's an accurate representation of it. That's not how intelligence is read. That's not how intelligence is used. Here's what the whole world knows. Forget about intelligence. What the IAEA knows. They are enriching uranium well beyond anything you need for a civil nuclear program. So why would you enrich uranium at 60%?
Right.
If you don't intend to one day use it to take it to 90 and build a weapon?
Right.
Why are you developing ICBMs? Why do you have 8,000 short-range missiles and 2,000 to 3,000 long mid-range missiles that you continue to develop? Why do you do all these things? They
Understood.
have everything they need for a nuclear weapon. They have the delivery mechanisms. They have the enrichment capability. They have the highly enriched uranium that is stored.
Yes.
That's all we need to see.
Right. Well,
especially in the hands of a regime that's already involved in terrorism and proxies and all kinds of things around. They are the source of all
yes, and no one's disputing that. I'm not doing that here. And they were censured at the IAEA for that enrichment and for violating their non-proliferation agreements. I was simply asking if we had intelligence that there was an order to weaponize, because you said weaponization ambitions.
Well, we have intelligence that they have everything they need to build a nuclear weapon, and that's more than enough.
Yeah, honestly, that was incoherent from Margaret Brennan, and whenever she is left sputtering like that and trying to, it's like her face is malfunctioning, right? And she's stuttering and sputtering and trying to get in, and I don't understand how CBS News thinks that this makes them look strong or competent or in some way in command of the issues. Meanwhile, Rubio, listen, viewers of this program know the truth about the March assessment. Tulsi Gabbard, the director of national intelligence, provided it under oath in Congress. Everyone's playing this 17-second clip of her saying that the Iranian regime did not have a program in place to build nuclear weapons. And then immediately, this is what gets cut off from everybody's social media feed when they show that clip and say, aha, see, Tulsi Gabbard herself said. Then the very next thing out of her mouth is they are stockpiling enriched uranium well beyond any commercial use of uranium that anyone could ever imagine. They're stockpiling it, and the only reason to do so is to utilize it for nuclear weapons. In other words, they've got all the parts laid out on the floor, like you just opened up the box from IKEA, and you got to put the crib together before your wife goes into labor, and you got your Allen wrench, and it's like, all right, you put it out on the floor in the nursery. You finish painting the nursery. The baby's coming. It's like, okay, you listen, when we get closer to the due date, then I'll put together the crib, because I hate these IKEA things, and it's hard to follow the instructions, and it's going to screw up my lower back anyway, and God knows the wife's not going to help me because she's gigantic at this point. I'll wait until we're a couple of weeks, and then I'll put together the crib. That's where they were in Iran. They had all the components laid out on the floor. All they got to do is put them together. And Rubio laid it out there without the colorful analogy of the IKEA crib. But it was brilliant. And I love that. What they got a space program. What, Iran's going to the moon? No. They want to be able to launch a rocket into the upper atmosphere to go across the ocean. Who do you think they're trying to hit? Maybe the country they've called the Great Satan for the last 50 years. But Margaret Brennan wasn't done. I mean, she was absolutely focused on picking a fight with Secretary of State Marco Rubio. And, I was waiting for an old school Republican, fresh off the country club or a brunch with Buffy at the 9th Hole Club, to show up for this meeting, this interview, and just sort of, stammer a bit and apologize for being conservative and apologize for having a robust American military, and just say, I know, Margaret, you're right. I really want the New York Times editorial page and the United Nations to be nice to me. So we're going to do better next time. I was waiting for that Republican to show up, but that Republican ain't in power anymore. It's these guys. And boy, has Rubio learned.
The problem is that everything they're demanding has nothing to do with a peaceful program. They are all the things you would want if you want to retain the option of one day weaponizing the program.
Okay.
Which has been their clear intent To me, that's indisputable. I followed this issue for 15 years, including the intelligence on it for 15 years. Okay, I have followed it. And the intelligence, these are assessments, and sometimes they've been wrong. I've seen them revised multiple times. These guys want a nuclear weapon one day.
Okay,
they do,
to that point.
and it isn't going to happen. Not while Donald Trump is president.
Understood. You've said this is not about regime change, but you were describing a regime that you have said for decades, I mean, for upwards of 40 years, has chanted death to America, has done all the things you just described. Isn't a diplomatic deal with them a lifeline? Aren't you offering to negotiate with the same people you're saying did all these things? So therefore, are you actually looking for regime change?
Are you following this line of questioning? First, she's getting aggressive on him, saying, well, yeah, why did you bomb them? We didn't know that they were on the verge of weaponization. There was no reason to bomb them. And now her argument is, well, why are you offering diplomacy to them? No reason to give diplomacy. I mean, you literally cannot win. It's like she doesn't care about the facts. She doesn't care about logic. She doesn't care about the truth. She only cares about scoring points against Rubio, which is fine. But you better score one or two. Otherwise, you will be the pathetic loser that you continue to be. I cannot believe she still has this job. It's amazing to me.
Well, that misses the point. I don't like that they chant those things. But one thing is that they chant those things. Another thing is that they chant those things and they have terror proxies are all over the world. And they have long-range missiles that can reach the United States one day. And they have the potential to be one step away from a nuclear weapon. Yeah, well, one day could be tomorrow, could be a week from now, could be a month from now. You know, all it takes is the flip of a switch. By the way, they're not going to broadcast that to the world. By the time we figure out that they're doing it, you have all the pieces in place. Okay, it's like you have a gun here and the ammunition. It only takes 1 second. We have other targets that we could hit, but we achieved our objective. The primary targets we were interested in are the ones that were struck tonight in devastating fashion. The ones that were struck, I guess, tonight over there, their time, in devastating fashion, and we've achieved that objective. There are no planned military operations right now against Iran unless they mess around and they attack American or American interests. Then they're going to have a problem. And I'm not going to broadcast what those problems are, but suffice it to say, know this. The United States flew halfway around the world, right into the heart of Iran, over their most sensitive locations. These things got rocked. And then we left. And we were out of their airspace. We were over the ocean before they figured out what had happened. And there are plenty of other targets. We don't want to do that. That's not our preference. We want peace deals with them. And that's up to them to decide.
Oh, that was so brilliantly done.
The problem,
not only brilliantly done in terms of communicating to Iran, we'll be coming for you and you won't know when we're coming. So you better make a deal now or it's over. But also, you know who's watching this? China. You know who's watching this? Russia, North Korea. This operation showed the entire world what they should have already known, but now there's no doubt. No one can do what we do militarily. Nobody can achieve what was just achieved. You know, as a kid, one of my earliest memories as a kid in terms of like news events and things going on was the Iranian hostage crisis. In fact, I remember vividly the day I showed up at school and people were learning the news about the Jimmy Carter failed rescue attempt that left members of the Delta Force dead in the deserts outside of Iran. And it's just, that kind of failure you grow up with. You grow up with knowing that Iran is this existential threat. And you know that our military at that time, 1979, was utilized in such a poor way, without correct direction, without correct budget, without correct training. Frankly, sadly, the morale so low after the Vietnam War. And now you get to this point in your life. What an incredible turnaround and what an incredible military dominance that was just displayed. And our adversaries around the world, they saw every second of this play out. And they're terrified. All right, more of Marco Rubio, your Secretary of State, specifically on this issue of regime change, because part of the theme here is what now? What now?
Objective here is very straightforward. They're not going to have a nuclear weapon. They're not even going to get close to a nuclear weapon. They're not even going to be in the neighborhood of a nuclear weapon because these people are dangerous. This is a radical Shia clerics who run that country, and they are the source of all instability in the region, all of it. Without Iran and this regime, there is no Hamas, there is no Hezbollah. Well, because we don't want them to have a nuclear weapon.
Okay,
but that's the core objective. But I'm going through the things they've done because that's why they can't have a nuclear weapon. Okay, they sponsor Shias. They sponsor these Shia militias, Hamas, Hezbollah, all these other terrorist groups. These people are never going to get anywhere close to a nuclear weapon. Not while Donald Trump is president.
For the Americans at home who are going, are we at war? I'm trying to suss out some of the facts here. So why would Iran agree to any peace deal if the United States has already pulled out of one that they had, as President Trump did in 2018, and now has launched 2 surprise attacks? Both Israel and the United States have done so. There is such a massive trust deficit there. How could you possibly come
but the trust deficit started with Iran.
Did you hear that? You'll hear the answer in a second, but you heard that, right? Why would Iran enter a peace deal with America? They can't trust you. This is an American media company. She's protected by the First Amendment of the United States Constitution. And, between this and the Washington Post literally publishing a map of American bases in the region saying, hey, this is what Iran might do next if they wanted to go after some of our military bases. Listen, I understand Iran probably already knew where our military bases were, but for the Washington Post to do that, hey, Margaret, Washington Post, you guys, if you don't want us to call you the enemy of the American people, maybe stop doing things and saying things that make you seem like you're the enemy of the American people. I mean, you're literally saying, she literally just said something that our enemy would say. Why should Iran trust you? Unbelievable. All right. Here's Rubio's answer.
I know.
Well, the trust deficit, the ones that shouldn't be trusted are the Iranians because they're the ones that sponsor terrorism. Did they forewarn us before they blew up the embassy in Lebanon and killed over 200 American servicemen? Did they forewarn us before they built IEDs and blew the legs and arms off of American servicemen in Iraq? I mean, these are the people that are doing this forever. They're the ones that no one should trust. They're the ones that have lied about their nuclear program.
But
they're the ones that have hidden things from the international organisms.
But that sounds like we're headed towards regime change, or the desire to get these people out of power.
No.
Are you?
No, a serious foreign policy is one that's focused on identifying what our national interest is. You don't have to like the regime. There are a lot of regimes around the world that we don't like, okay? But in this particular case, what we are focused on is not the changing of the regime. Okay, that's up to the Iranian people if they want to do that, but that's not what we're focused on. Our national interest is about one thing, and that is Iran not getting anywhere near the capability to weaponize and have nuclear weapons. They're not going to get anywhere near that capability. The president has made that clear from day one. Our preference for solving that problem, that very specific problem, is through diplomacy. We've said that. We've given it every opportunity. They played games. They tried delay tactics. They're trying delay tactics now on the Europeans because of the snapback provisions.
When did
and you
the
talk about the JCPOA, that was a crazy deal.
All right. That's enough of poor Margaret did not do any better toward the end of that. It doesn't matter. You've seen enough. You see that Marco Rubio is in command of this and really becoming a man in full. Margaret Brennan and CBS News weren't the only ones who were lamenting the success of our American military and lamenting the fact that over 80% of the American people were happy that the nuclear program in Iran was taking care of something the presidents had been hoping to take care of for decades. And although I'm not so sure Biden and Obama really wanted that to happen. Otherwise, why would they have given them a deal that actually allowed them to enrich uranium? And don't forget the pallets of cash that was used to finance terrorist attacks against Americans and Israelis. But ABC News, they were very, very concerned over there at ABC News about so many issues and so many problems, especially the concern that Donald Trump is now leading us into a forever war, that this is needless, that we're going to have troops on the ground, that it's regime change, that it's nation building, and he's violating his promise when he ran for office. Of course, none of that is true, but it didn't stop ABC News.
But this is a fairly risky move for this president, though tonight he says it's been a victory. He thanked U.S. forces who were involved, and he said if Iran does not end the wars and seek peace, tragedy for Iran will be even greater than what we've seen in the last 24 hours.
David, it is an extremely risky move, and no one knows really where this goes from here. Look, the president, we know, has long warned that Iran cannot get a nuclear weapon, but he also long was pushing for those negotiations. As you mentioned, it was just 2 days ago that the president announced, after yet another meeting in the Situation Room, that he was going to give himself this 2-week deadline within which to make this decision whether or not to strike Iran, in part because he thought there was, quote, a substantial chance of negotiations, that they would be able to get Iran back back to the table. It is not clear still, even after hearing from the president just now, what changed his mind, what led him to believe there was no time left to waste, that the U.S. had to go ahead and get deeply involved in this conflict in a way that the president has also really promised the American people he would not. He campaigned on a promise to be a peacemaker and a unifier, to keep America out of these kinds of conflicts. And what's clear tonight is that the president is very much leaving open the door that there will be more of this. While he is hailing the strikes tonight as a huge success, he is also not ruling out additional military action, saying that there are many targets left, that they will act with precision, speed, and skill if needed. How all of this will ultimately end Iran's nuclear program is a huge question. And of course, David, Iran has promised a severe response if the U.S. were to be directly involved, as we now are.
All right. So thank you, Newsbusters, for the clip. Let me just unpack a little bit of this, first of all. President Trump has always said that Iran can't have a nuclear weapon, but he also promised that he wouldn't lead us into a war. We're not quite sure how to square these two things. What are you talking about? Honestly, they really should watch the news now and again before they report it to you. It doesn't take that much to figure this out. Iran can't have a nuclear weapon. And we want to be able to solve this peacefully at the negotiating table. But guess what? If we don't believe you're negotiating in good faith, if we think you're lying to us, if you blow past deadlines and you're not interested in actually having a real conversation about ending the enrichment of uranium, and you insist on continuing to enrich uranium, then there really isn't anything more to discuss. We're going to stop you. See, there you go. I don't have an advanced degree like you, lady, but I figured it out. It's pretty common sense, actually. Oh, but President Trump also promised that he wouldn't get us into forever wars, needless excursions with nation building. And so now how do you resolve that? Here he was. He promised everyone he wouldn't do nation building and forever wars, but now he sent the B-2 bombers to blow up the nuclear capabilities of Iran. I mean, this is just hypocritical. He's lying. He lied. We caught him in a lie when he was campaigning. Really? Because here's President Trump's track record. Yeah, he does want to be a peacemaker. He doesn't want to get into wars. In fact, he's the first president in modern history that didn't engage in a full-scale war in decades and get America stuck in long-term engagements. But that doesn't mean you don't use the military when you absolutely need to use the military. He drops the mother of all bombs on Afghanistan. There was no larger war. And all of the incursions against, you remember the Taliban, when Trump first became president, was increasing their attacks on the American military. He dropped that Moab. Stopped. Trump strikes Syrian chemical weapons. Did something that Obama wouldn't do. Remember, Obama drew a red line in the sand. If they start using chemical weapons, that's a red line. Syria starts using chemical weapons. Obama just shrugs and goes back to watching ESPN. Trump gets in there, bombs the chemical weapons plants. No more. Done. Did that mean a forever war? Did that mean boots on the ground? Did that mean nation building? No. Trump promised to take care of ISIS, something that had festered and taken over the entire Levant region of the Middle East under Barack Obama, when Barack Obama joked and, oh, ISIS, they're the JV team. And the next thing you know, ISIS is controlling all of Iraq and most of Syria. Trump gets in there in less than a year. ISIS is wiped off the map. Did that mean boots on the ground? Did that mean a large footprint? No. In fact, Trump was the one that oversaw withdrawing completely from Iraq. And then, of course, Trump liquefied Soleimani, the head of the Iranian Republican Guard, their elite, military people, who was responsible for killing and maiming so many American soldiers and Marines and sailors in Iraq during the Iraq War. He saw that target, absolutely turned him into a pile of dust on the sidewalk. That didn't mean a larger war. Everyone said it would. Oh, here we go. It's World War III now. That's it. It's over. Nope. You use the military when you need to use the military to complete an objective, and that's it. One and done. Maybe, just maybe, we should trust President Trump on this. And maybe the viewers of ABC News would be better informed if their reporters and their anchors actually had some good, better at least, working knowledge of recent history. I mean, it's not like it was a long time ago. It was only over the course of the last 8 years that these things transpired, but they lack any context and any wisdom about who this man is and what he's done as president already. They confuse him with the other men who have run and occupied that White House, people who do get us stuck in long-term wars. That's not Trump. Not yet. So what's next? Well, we don't know, and we don't pretend to know. But if you look at history and you look at what's been done before under this president, what's next is nothing. We did our job. It's done. But if you want to FA a little more, you will FO a whole lot more.